in the Greater Triangle area. This is another episode of the Triangle Tennis Podcast with Matt and Zack. I am Zack, joined as always by Dr. Matthew Hanauer. Matt, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for our guests. We haven't had a ton of guests on recently, so I'm excited to get back into that pattern, and we've got a good one for you. We've got Ken, and I'm not even going to try your last name because I know I'll butcher that, so I'm gonna let you go ahead and pronounce that correctly.
As somebody with the CZ last name, it is
Yeah.
important. We want to get it right. So, yes, just for us and for the audience, can you give us the formal pronunciation?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Sakin J. Kumar.
Jay Kumar.
You
That's
split-
not too
yeah.
hard.
Yeah,
No,
that's
it's just
not-
a lot easier than it looks. It's just
It
more
is.
syllables. Yeah.
That is much less intimidating than I thought. Yeah,
Respectfully, I'm going to say I have a harder last name, and it's not close.
I agree.
I agree. Yeah.
I think I was pronouncing your name wrong until a couple weeks ago, Zach.
I mean, I kind of pronounce my last name wrong because I'm just like trying to American. Like every generation of Tchaikovskys Americanizes it a little bit more and just chops a letter, makes it a little easier because the people get stuck on the CZ. Which is weird.
Well,
Everybody knows about the Czech Republic. Like it's a ch noise. It's not hard.
Weirdly, that was the part I got easily. It was the J that I just kept like yelling explicitly, but it's not supposed to be.
Yeah, I guess there's multiple. It's a beautiful Polish name.
People will find a way to mess up your name, so that's all
It's
good.
true. It's true. And you know what? It's one of the wonderful things about living in a melting pot of cultures and names and difficult spellings and pronunciations. And with that, let's get into it. But before we get into the Kerry Challenger, which Visakan maybe as well as anybody in the Triangle at this point, we want to start by talking about the flooding in the area. It's really sad. It's really sad on a bunch of different levels. Stores flooded. There's some people that lost their homes. There are parks that are going to be unusable for some time. And Matt, talk a little bit about kind of some of the reports that you've gotten so far and what folks can do about it.
Yeah, no, around the Chapel Hill Tennis Club area got flooded pretty bad. I think they said around 50 homes got hit pretty hard. And there's some picture, the 7 to 12, the courts in the back are absolutely trashed. The fencing's down. It's just like a wet beach, and the pool got trashed. And the indoor courts, right after Visakan left them, ended up getting flooded. Was there any water coming in when you were there, Visakan?
A little bit, but
Yeah.
not more than usual. But it was pounding on the roof. The roof
More
was.
than usual.
We couldn't hear each other across the court, like yelling scores, so it was rough. So I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine outside.
This was a weird one because I wasn't really tracking the storm, and I typically put the Weather Channel on and watch, and it just seemed to break late and just be everything broke the wrong way, and so it's really unfortunate. I think one thing I'll just throw out there for anybody: there are going to be a bunch of park cleanups. There's going to be a bunch of donation drives for folks that lost their home to the flood. There are going to be people looking for housing. It might be a buddy of yours, might be a friend of a friend, but I think there's a million different ways to be helpful. I think park cleanup it's just a universal good. You know, you'd have to be a real asshole to say, "Oh, you cleaned up a park this weekend? Weird." Like, it's a good thing to do, flood or no. And so I think would really encourage folks to just take an action, just do something, because the whole community's been impacted by these floods, and it's really sad, frustrating stuff.
All right.
And with
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
let's get to a little bit of a brighter note. The Kerry Tennis Challenger. What was the name of the event, Visakan?
Kerry Tennis Classic?
Kerry Tennis Classic.
Yeah, it was fun.
Some people call it the third most prestigious tournament in North Carolina, behind number 1, the Smash Cancer, obviously, and number 2, the Winston-Salem Open. But how was it, man? You spent quite a bit of time there, yeah?
I spent so much time there. I've been on a career break for the last couple months, and so I was like, after I just signed for a new job that started this week, I was like, I need to have a bucket list, and so went to the tennis classic maybe 4 days of the 7. And any tournament I go to, it's so much fun to just see pro tennis in the first row for 20, $30. And the level this year was pretty high. I think it was top 300 people for the most part. And then even the ITF junior women were just smacking the hell out of the ball. Like, they're so good.
Was there a player that, everybody saw him and was like, oh, this is somebody who's going to the next level? Because I know that Carew talked about playing Mapechi Pericard in a challenger a couple of years ago and instantly being like, oh, this guy's going to be an ATP player. Was there anybody like that?
It's a good question. The kid who won it, Rei Sakamoto, was like a top junior out of Japan a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and now he's beating grown pros at challengers. He just ran through the draw. I saw him almost in the first and second round. He looks so good. He's a 6'5",
Oh,
lanky, huge serve, really young and quick. He's going to be winning, I think, the next couple years.
Oh, he's only 19 as well. He's a
Yeah,
super young guy.
yeah.
That's
is
pretty
that
darn cool.
is that super young? What is the? Because like I see like women
He's a
winning Wimbledon
teenager.
at 15 or something.
Yeah,
Is
okay. It's been a minute. Like Coco and Mira
Yeah, I mean,
Andreeva are super young. He's a teenager.
he's not a prodigy, but
yeah.
he's been good for a while. And I think now he's starting to win challengers or futures. I
Okay.
forget what his first one was, but
I do think we need to drill down on this. What is the official like super young cutoff for the Triangle Tennis podcast? Because for me, if you are not drinking age, you are a child. Like like
yeah.
this guy is a child beating grown men, and like I'm sticking with the super young label. Matt, what's the
Well,
cutoff?
it's because we play 18 plus. So when you see an 18 or 19-year-old, which is pretty rare in USTA, that is like crazy young.
Yeah.
So I think it's different. For USTA, yeah, 18 or 19 is baby. But I don't know. I don't know anything about pro tennis. I don't watch. But I just remember hearing 15, 16-year-olds winning Wimbledon. So I see 19, and I'm like, you're past your prime, bro.
Visakan, this is one of my favorite recurring things. Is just I don't understand how Matt can play as much tennis as he does, be as good as he is, like tennis as much as he does, and watch none of it. That's unusual,
Really?
right? Yeah.
Wow.
No, I'll watch a finals here. And I watched the French Open finals on my phone. That was fun. Then I'll watch the U.S. Open is on during good times. I do like to go watch. Jack and I go to the Winston-Salem,
Yep.
and I like to watch live tennis because that's fun.
Okay. You just like to keep work and life separate for you?
Yeah, I just don't find it enjoyable. Just sitting on my couch watching tennis. I'd rather watch a TV show or something else. Yeah, or go play. I'd really rather just go play.
Well, yeah.
When's the
Yeah.
last time that you attempted to watch tennis?
It was the French Open finals. I was like cooking or doing something else, and I had it on my phone, kind of watching,
Like
listening.
this year's French
Yes.
Open final? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That was a good match. That was fun.
You know what? I have
That was
never
a
been
good
more
match.
certain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good match.
There is a 0% chance that Matt is going to get into watching tennis. If that didn't hook you and be like, you know what, I want to reconsider, then nothing is going to. Because it was a good match. That was the match of the century.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, pretty
That was
good. Back to Carrie. All right, so Visakan, it is my understanding that you ball boyed for at least a day. Tell us a little bit about that experience and how you got into it.
Yeah, I think the appropriate term is ball peopled now.
Excuse me?
I heard that they restricted the age in the past because they had just a ton of volunteers, obviously. But I think with the dates moving to July, I think it's usually in August, they expanded it, and now we're asking for ball people. So that's where I snuck in. So it was really just me and I think maybe 20 or 30 young teenagers, a lot of 7, 8, 9-year-olds. But I honestly think this was going to be my plug later, but if anybody hasn't done a ball kid thing at some
Yeah.
point, I would 100% recommend it. It's first of all, it's free in this case, and I was like court level with top 300 people, and even unranked juniors are just so humbling to like actually just stand behind and watch hit the
Yeah.
ball. And I didn't have my phone obviously while during the matches, but I was just mentally taking so many notes. I was like they're so much more stable on their backhand. They're like first +1 after their serve is on defense, but they're so good at returning it and counter punching. And it was also really cool to see the stuff that people yell at themselves mid-point or in between points.
Like what? What kind of
Well,
stuff?
there was, I won't say her name. Not, she might listen to the podcast. You never know.
Oh.
Seems unlikely. Seems unlikely.
One of the ITF women was really good pounding the ball, but she was starting to get warnings for obscenities, and she was just yelling them to herself. But a lot of the players would just be really hard on themselves. But then there are some players who are just egregiously positive and supportive. That are just like one guy was whispering to himself, like in between the two ball kids, just like, that was a good idea. I like it. Let's try it again. As if he was just
Okay.
like talking to his therapist in his head. And I was like, that's really healthy. I like that.
What obscenities specifically drew the warning?
I mean, ramped up in volume. The first couple nobody heard, but first it was just like, "Wow, you fucking suck." So just
Yeah.
the normal stuff that
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all say.
a typical hand hour match. And then eventually, I think she started just yelling the F word out loud by itself. And at that point, the player's like, I don't know who you're yelling at, but it better not be me.
Just to reiterate, there are 7, 8, and 9-year-old
Yeah,
ball
exactly.
ball
Yeah.
people. So yeah, I can see how that's a no-no in that setting. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it was awesome. It was a pretty well-run tournament too, considering got rained out
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah.
They're using electronic line calling now, so the matches are faster, but it was awesome to just see all that pro tennis up close.
So within the ball people community, did any of the ball kids like talk shit? Was there an 8-year-old who was really good at it, talking shit to like a teenager? Oh, let me show you how to do it, kind of stuff.
To the players?
I know to like the other
To like
ball
you.
people. Yeah. Did
Yeah,
you
well,
have a
not-
rival?
I think because I just looked so old, I scared him away. But I eavesdropped on a lot of like feisty conversations actually.
Oh.
So I think a lot of these ball kids are in the Cary Tennis Park like juniors program. And so they all play and hit with each other and they're all trying to get to the highest level in the academy. I forget what it was called. Not prestige, but something pretentious like that.
Yeah.
But basically, like they're talking about what levels they're at, and they're like, how could you hit with a Western forehand grip? Like you're gonna break your wrists, and just talking crap to each other. You guys are like
Oh,
9 years old.
So I want to come back to something you touched on earlier. You mentioned like you're taking all these mental notes and mental pictures of the players. Was there anything that was like the clear biggest difference between a rec player and an aspiring a top 100 player?
Just one thing.
Just yeah. What?
Just
You know,
one.
I mean, there's a
Just one.
thousand things, but was there one
No,
that's like bigger
one.
than all the rest?
I think the highest ranked player there was top 200, but I think that maybe I'll go with the thing that like floored me the most. That was just most glaring. They are rarely on defense, it looks like.
Huh?
There are so many times rec players like us will just jog backwards and just fade away into the fence and pop it back up or be caught out of position really quickly. But their footwork and just like commitment to getting to the ball quickly so they can flip it around to offense is insane. Like even like the younger juniors would, if you pop a ball up and it's not 2 feet from the baseline, it's the point's over. Like that's it. Like they
Yeah.
jump on it immediately versus a lot of people who are just like the quote unquote grinders in the leagues are very comfortable just like rallying and that works in rec
Like
tennis.
whom?
I don't know. I don't know whose game you're describing. Hanging out by the fence, falling backwards. Like that's just a mystery to me.
There's so many people that come to mind, and it really works in USTA stuff. But like these pros, if you hit a soft
Oh,
ball,
yeah.
it's
Oh.
done. Like they're just so cutthroat with that.
Matt, is that similar to what you observed when we've gone to the Winston Open?
I'd say that's similar to what I observed on the court when I played like Andres. Anything
Yeah.
that wasn't a foot away from the baseline was a winner. So yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, they're never off balance. Like you look at us, especially me, I'm always off balance. I'm never on balance. I would miss a ball on balance because I've been hitting it off balance for 20 years. So I don't yeah.
I
Go
tripped
ahead.
over my own feet, Matt, in our match on Sunday. You saw I literally put one foot in front of the other, and it snuck up on me somehow, and I fell. And it was embarrassing because we were playing two 24-year-olds who were better at tennis than us, but it would have been embarrassing no matter who. And yeah, I think the thing I'll toss out there, and I think that this kind of ties into that, whenever Matt and I have gone to Winston, the level of focus and intensity,
Yeah.
it doesn't, like, a lot of us take points off, sometimes take games off. Hey, who amongst us hasn't taken the set off at some point on a hot day? They are locked in from the
Yeah.
minute probably the minute they wake up that day until the minute they shake hands at the end of the match. And I think those things very much go together. Because there's plenty of guys that we play that are in very good shape. Not world-class shape very much, but there's fit guys.
Yeah.
There's people that hit the ball hard. But yeah, those guys are those players are just on a different level. What a cool experience. Any closing thoughts on Cary? Any celebrity spottings, perhaps?
Not to shame rec league players, but go back to the
Yeah,
one
that's fine.
thing
Go
that's
for it.
separate.
Yeah,
That's really what this podcast is
Yeah,
all
yeah,
about,
yeah.
actually. Yeah.
I did also want to call out that pros also are sometimes just as bad as us. And there was this one match where they had a really long break between sets because it was like 95 degrees, so people were getting 10 minutes. So this one girl came back 3 or 4 minutes late. And so that's like with a warning, and then every 45 seconds or so, you get a point penalty. And so she was down like love 40, other girls were 40 love. And she had won the last set, was looking really good. And then started this third set off with this like point penalty situation immediately on game point, got broken right after. Then other girl held, and she got broken again and was down like 2-5. The other sets were 7-6, 6-7. So like her, you could tell like they're also susceptible to crazy mental swings and their focus
Yeah.
isn't always perfect. Grant, to be fair, she was probably like 17, so I won't hold it against her, but they're just as bad as us sometimes.
They're still people, right?
They're
Like
human.
they have normal
Yeah,
human emotions. Yeah.
yeah,
That is neat almost. And probably not for that player in that moment, but to see
At all.
normal human emotions in a world-class athlete, it's
yeah,
very humanizing, it sounds
yeah.
like.
It made me feel better that it's not just us. It also makes me feel worse if they haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
We're screwed. But to celebrity sightings, Carousel for me was probably the biggest one.
Ooh.
She was just hanging out during a rain delay in between his sets with Patrick Kipson, I think in the quarters maybe. And he was just swarmed by 10-year-olds just trying to get his autograph. Like he was popular. I think he had the
Did you
biggest
just
crowd too.
knock them out of the way? Just I am an adult. Get out of here.
I didn't want to get called out on his YouTube channel, so I waited. But he was really nice. Obviously, he was focused on his match, but he was nice. Signed everybody's things and
Yeah.
said hi to people.
Did you ask him if he's a listener?
This podcast wasn't top of mind, which is maybe a me thing, but
Yeah.
no, I mentioned like off. I mentioned offhand that we all love his YouTube channel, and
Yeah.
he's yeah, that's awesome, man. That was it.
I think that he's creating a new model for players, right? Like it's hard financially to just grind on the Challenger Tour, and I guess any revenue coming in from what he's doing with YouTube, for him, I'd imagine it's quite a bit, but for somebody that's got 10,000, 20,000 followers, it still could help, and so that's really cool. I think that he's shining a light on the fact that tennis is one of the worst managed sports in the world. In what other sport would you get some of the best 300 players in the world together and have tickets be that cheap,
Yeah.
have that few amenities for the players, have them have to pay for their own hotels and flights and all
Oh,
this stuff, and
yeah.
and to get their coaches there? Like the governing bodies of tennis are shameful. It's disgusting how little they do for the players. And just a fun
No.
fact, tennis is actually the sport where the least amount of money on the professional level goes to the players. About 20% of every dollar goes to players. In the NBA and the NFL, it's more like 50% goes to the
Wow.
players. Yeah, I like that he does it not like in a judgmental or angry way, but he shows that world-class athletes are not getting world-class treatment from the governing bodies of tennis.
Yeah, dude, it's insane. The WTA just recently had added financial support for maternity leave, basically, so
Oh,
you
jeez.
could protect
Wow.
your rankings and points, and it's like 2025. You've had women in the sport for 100 years.
Yeah, man. Like there's so much more they can do for these players. But also, like players pay for their own coaches. LeBron doesn't pay the salary for the Lakers coach.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous. Anyway, that I will get off my tennis high horse. Let's get into some plugs. Visakan, what you plugging today?
I'll do two because I wasted one already. But my first one, I'll have to repeat it, is Ball Kid
Yeah.
at a tournament, even if it's a futures tournament or a high school college tournament. It is so cool to see that ball up close and like the sound the ball makes coming off their racket. Like one of my friends asked me, it was like, why are their balls dead? Because it really sounded like a gunshot every time they hit the ball. And then I would start to get the balls that rolled to me on the court, and they would just have this like red stencil coloring all over it. And I was like, no, they're just hitting the sweet spot. That's what it sounds like every single ball. And I was like, it was humbling, but also really inspiring. So I think that would be the first one. Second one, I am definitely late on the creatine train, but I recently started trying it just to supplement. Yeah, there you go. Zach's got it. I mean, I've taken like protein for a while just for like recovery and stuff, but never felt like trying other supplements. And I tried it maybe a couple months ago, and I noticed like the next week, like stamina went up, my recovery went up, think my sleep got better and noticed it immediately on the court too. Like I felt like I just added half an hour to my endurance. It was game changing. So I would
I,
definitely plug that.
I want to plus one that because I was on the receiving end of creatine Visakan, and you kicked my ass the other day. And like, I will also point out you've been looking very svelte. Look like the muscle development is one of the things that creatine's supposed to do, and I could tell.
Interesting. I didn't like it when I took it. I was on it for a couple of months. I felt like I gained a lot of weight, and I can't. That's not something that I can do. Like I can't be gaining any more weight. So it's interesting. Yeah. So I actually didn't. I didn't like dislike it. It wasn't like I had like bad side effects or anything, but
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I started taking it for those exact reasons that you guys did because I heard it was supposed to help with recovery and stuff, and it didn't do it for me. But I'm glad it's doing it for you guys.
Yeah. It does add water weight. I did learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to work a little extra harder for
You
that.
kind of
But
puff up for a little bit when you first get on it,
yeah.
and some people do like the loading thing where they take a bunch initially. And
Yeah.
for me, I just take the same amount every
Yeah.
day. I'd recommend giving it a go. Everybody's
Yeah,
different.
I would
Everybody's body
too.
is different.
Give it a try. Yeah. Not,
Yeah.
There's really not a lot of downsides other than a little water weight, and then I got off it and I lost it, and it was fine.
There we go.
There you go.
Dr. Hanauer, what are you plugging today?
Sake, right?
Yeah,
We got sake. So
Ooh. Sure.
Zach and I are going to well, you would know more about it. A sake tasting and food, a fancy dinner.
It's a sake pairing,
Okay.
little bros night, and so
Yeah.
text or message Matt or I if you're listening and you're interested. It should be a good time. I gotta be honest, I'm not like a huge sake guy. I don't really. It's been fine every time I've had it, but I don't really know anything other than it has alcohol in it and it's somewhere between fine and good. And so I hope that we'll walk away from that evening knowing a little more.
Yeah. I do have to put on pants, which is something I do 3 times a year, tops.
Are you a shorts in the snow guy, Matt?
I was, yeah, when there was snow, yeah.
Okay.
In Indiana, yeah.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The thing that I want to plug today, and then I'm actually going to do a little bonus plug, not a me thing, but
Wow.
somebody on this podcast. But first, though, I want to plug court resurfacing advocacy. I think that everybody who has listened to really a minute or two of this podcast has heard me talk about public clay. After talking with Chris Moffitt, the fantastic Enacta executive director, I've come to the conclusion that before we can get to public clay, people don't believe. They don't believe that it's achievable. They're wrong. It is. Winston-Salem, Wilmington, many other places, Denver, many other places have figured this out. But we have to show people that progress is possible, and that starts not with public clay. It ends in public clay, but it starts with getting our courts resurfaced. There's a bunch of them that are in the rotation to get resurfaced, but there are a lot of cities, a lot of municipalities around the country are going to have some budget challenges in the coming months and years, and it's really important that they know that funding parks and funding court resurfacing and repairs are important. Pickleballers understand how to do this. They show up at city council meetings, all of which are publicly available, are listed well in advance, like the whole year is listed out on the Durham website. These are knowable things. Would love to see the tennis community step up, start attending these meetings, talking about why a healthy community is a happy community and why an investment in tennis courts, it's not frivolous, it's a smart and a good thing, which is something that, in all seriousness, I completely and totally believe. I'm a little biased, but I really, in my heart of hearts, believe that. And with that, I have to plug one other thing. My favorite new Instagram follow. Visakan, I hope this is all right. Will you tell us a little bit about your side hustle? It's really cool.
Fine. Yeah. Yeah, I've been dabbling in desserts since COVID. Creme brulee kind of blew my mind at a restaurant when we were in Chicago. And then just started experimenting with stuff. It kind of escalated the last 2 years, and then been getting more and more advanced and just doing cookbook stuff on the side. Then last year we started to just do it for fun with friends. So I'd have 7 to 8 friends come over, come up with a dessert tasting menu, like 3 or 4 courses, and then just come up with a menu, test out recipes for a month, and then just guinea pig it with them. And then that kind of grew into doing it every month. I think we did 5 or 6, and then I'm slowly in the process of trying to see if we can launch this and do it for strangers. So working on that outside of working outside tennis, but it's been fun in the meantime.
I don't want to speak for Matt, but I would be happy to be a guinea pig for you. If you're looking for an additional tester.
Oh, yeah,
That's
all the
incredible,
time.
man.
Yeah, I haven't thrown a party in a while. We might have to do that. We can collaborate and do that, and we'll talk offline. That sounds. There's some
Yeah, man.
opportunities there, even some Enoch to fundraisers or something,
Oh, that's a good idea.
or even your other
Yeah.
your regular work stuff, Zach.
Visakan, not to put you on the spot here, but would you be willing to break out your skills for a fundraiser for a good cause, whether it's flood relief kind of stuff or
Yeah, man.
Inocta or
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I don't know if Henry Kennelly is in a lot of
Mhm.
the tennis groups, but he works, I think he's connected with a nonprofit around here, and
yeah.
they were doing a whole auction thing for this big event. And so we tossed in the whole dessert tasting thing in there as one of the items, and people bid on it. Surprised
Yeah.
me, but people bid on it.
You are
Most of
the
it,
only person that has seen your Instagram that is surprised by that because it truly, man, it's incredible. I couldn't believe it when I stumbled on it. The detail, the like everything about it was incredible. And I haven't even tasted it yet, but the presentation was immaculate and it's just
Thanks.
really freaking cool.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. So we're just trying to see if we can scale it up and do it a little bit more seriously. But yeah, totally down to do it for like fundraisers and good causes for sure.
There we go. Maybe court resurfacing, maybe flood
Yeah.
relief. There are many
Yeah.
good causes to support through the tennis community. With that, let's get to Visakan on Visakan. You mentioned earlier you're taking a little career break. More and more people from our generation are doing that and are having really great experiences and using that time to find themselves, figure out their next move, make a change. Would love to hear how it's been from you, what realizations you've had, and if you would recommend other folks giving that a go.
Yeah. I'll start by saying you really have to be like super privileged to be able to do it, to be able to go off of like double income for a little bit. But I think a lot of people had this moment in COVID probably where they're confronted in that like crazy isolation with this is my life. Is this really what my life is?
Yeah.
And if you're like overworking or you're burnt out from work, like you really start to resent your 9 to 5 or 8 to 6 or whatever it might be. And I don't think anybody, maybe not anybody, but a lot of people in tech probably aren't physically burnt out. It's a comfortable lifestyle compared to a lot of other jobs. But I think for me, the repetition and just like the disconnect from like really helping people in the world,
Yeah.
like face to face, was something that I started to miss. And you're obviously just there to help the company make money. That's just how businesses work. But like thinking about that every single day just constantly was just eating away at me. And the company actually had layoffs back in December, and I was maybe a month away from just taking a break either way. And so it
Mhm.
worked out, got
Yeah.
severance for a month or two, and then we had savings luckily. And so we're like, why don't we just not apply to jobs right away? And so took 2 or 3 months off, didn't check LinkedIn, didn't do anything, played way too much tennis, went deeper into desserts, and then gradually started to feel like it's coming back to me. And so now I could be more intentional about what job to actually jump back into, a company and lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like I'm in a much healthier spot now when it comes to work. So I think I don't know if 6 months, if that was totally necessary. There's probably 3 months in there where I didn't do anything productive. I was just watching Wimbledon or US Open or not US Open, French Open, Australian, playing tennis, coming back, watching more tennis. So it got a little mundane at one point, but I think I would totally recommend just rethinking every 6 months. Is this the right spot for me? And is it doing what it needs to do for me?
I had a little surprise work hiatus as well in early 2021, and I would like to say that I used that time productively and for self-reflection and physical activity. And all I'll say is I played a lot of video games. I built the best franchise on Madden 2021, and that's really the only thing that I achieved in that period. How are you able to like actually take advantage of that time and find the motivation? 'Cause I feel like there are plenty of folks that plan to do what you're describing, and then they end up doing what I did and just playing a bunch of video games and maybe puffing on a little something.
I do think there's going to be a phase in that break where you do have to intentionally just do nothing. And I
Hmm.
think that's going to be hard for a lot of people, but you really have to just start from nothing and just let your body and brain just recover a little bit because you've been, grinding for so long. I think for me, after I got through that sort of do nothing and recover phase, I started from scratch asking myself like existential questions about what do I actually want to do with my life?
Yeah.
Do I want to be in tech, for example, for forever until I retire? And if so, what kind? And I like explored what would it look like to work in a as a pastry chef in a restaurant. Like,
Yeah.
how do you get there? Are there careers in tennis that make some amount of money that we could use as income? Like, definitely,
Podcaster. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Or like even helping coach at a club, like even if it's
Yeah.
not a huge salary, but you're like with playing with tennis all day with tennis players, all the way down to going back into the traditional like tech jobs that I've been doing. Just started from zero around like what brings me joy every day and what can I actually tolerate for 40, 50 hours a week
Yeah.
without taking away from other stuff in our life. So I think eventually like that was my plan, was to just answer those questions and reach out to a lot of chefs and talk to some like tennis instructors around the area. And Loic was really helpful on the instructor side. And then on the tech side, I was pretty familiar with just like researching companies, so I went into that direction too.
Yeah. Did you get any good advice or advice that you want to share from folks in the tennis community about what it would be like to transition into work? Because I think that's something that a lot of guys, that a lot of people that are tennis players think about. 'Cause I love this sport so much. Is there a way that I could make this my day job, my full time job? So did anybody have any good tips or relevant stuff that you want to share?
Maybe not direct advice, but it was cool to see that there were more people than I thought actually involved in tennis
Hmm.
professionally. Like John Hankinson was one person that came to mind recently, that he's been good at tennis for a while, but he's been more involved with the USTA and try tennis and all of the volunteering classes recently. So I see him at all these tournaments, like officially running stuff. And then Liam or William Martin is his doubles partner, who's 4 or 5.
We found out he was a. We played that 4-5 the other
Yeah,
day.
Oh,
he
Yeah,
4-5 does
he
pretty
did.
aggressively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, but like they were in like the academy to help train kids too. And then Loic obviously is coaching a ton of kids
Yeah.
around Durham. So it's just cool to see that it is possible. It really depends on what you need to support your lifestyle. But I think
Yeah.
in general, like there are tons of opportunities, even if it's volunteering or part-time or something like that. So it made me more optimistic about doing something in that space one day, but still got work to do.
That's awesome, man. I think also like this area is the tennis capital, the recreational tennis capital of the planet. There are more tennis players, recreational tennis players per capita in the Triangle region of North Carolina, truly, than almost anywhere else in the country. You know, the state of California, yeah, there are more total tennis players,
Yeah.
but there's a bunch of people not playing tennis. There are
Yeah.
a staggering percentage of people here who play rec tennis, and so I think that's awesome that you're exploring that, and I hope that'll inspire some of the other folks that are listening to take a look if they're thinking about that, because I know it's something that comes up all the time that people want to do and think about doing. They just don't take the jump because it's a little scary.
Oh yeah, for sure. Matt, have you ever been confronted by your future and asked yourself, like, do I want to be in tennis or something like that?
I mean, it was the PhD thing was intense. I had to I worked full time and did that, and I just had to be like you talked about with those tennis players, laser focused. That's why I didn't have. I started dating Jody towards the middle, but I told her like, yo, nothing's stopping me from this PhD. So you can come along for the ride, but I will
Jeez.
die. I will die before I don't get this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I took it a little easy. I didn't play tennis, so that's been really great. That's been my break is I'll work normal hours instead of working a job and going to school, and so then I get to play tennis. So yeah, I did a lot of volunteering and worked for nonprofits when I was younger, so I did all that and liked it, and then I realized I was poor, and so now I'm like, you need to pay me money to do
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, I kind of went the opposite of you. So now it's I want more money, please.
Yeah, capitalism sucks, but it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yep. Yep. Listen, let's transition here. Visakan, tell us a little bit about your tennis origin story. You're an amazing player. You've beaten a ton of good players in the Triangle. How did you get here?
How did I get here to a whopping 4-0?
Yeah, you're a
Yeah.
4-0 in the same way that Hankinson's a
Four
4-5.
five, yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree with that. Yeah,
You're the most
I
egregious 4-0 in the Triangle. You and Stewart
yeah.
sometimes go back and forth between most egregious. Yeah.
Okay, we should talk about that. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think it also I started playing in like middle school age, played a little bit through high school, mostly JV, and then they pulled us up to varsity the last year because 2 guys got injured. So I don't really count that as varsity, but we were on the team, got our letter jackets and everything, and then didn't play in college. I tried out with the Michigan University of Michigan club team. Got I don't think I won a game all of tryouts.
Holy
So that
crap.
that didn't go well. It was a big public school, but it wasn't in the cards. And then when I moved to Chicago, picked it up a little bit, tried USTA, but tennis really isn't a huge sport in Chicago.
Yeah.
It's more of a be on the boat on the water
Hmm.
city. Then we moved to Seattle, even worse for tennis
Yeah.
because it's raining all year.
Yeah, but for 2 months a year, you can play tennis until 11 p.m. with natural lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. But then at that point, everybody's playing pickleball,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
even then. And so I don't think my tennis got a ton better there. But when I moved here, it was like night and day. I didn't know, I still didn't know about like huge USTA prominence here. And so I joined Raleigh Racket Club when we moved 3 years ago. I was like, I just need to play more tennis for my mental health. And that's actually where I met Max Gregson
Yep.
in one of the clinics in the morning. And then so he was like, hey, do you want to play on my friend Ryan Goff's 3-5 team? We ended up playing, went to States, had a fun run with the team. Really awesome group of guys. And then that just opened the floodgates to everything else. So I think that was a pretty big inflection point, I think, for my tennis at least.
Very cool. And so, how would you describe your game for those folks listening in places far away as Indonesia and Luxembourg, where we have listeners? Like, how would you describe your game to those folks?
Do you have listeners out there?
I think we have some people using VPNs, but
Yeah.
yes.
we kept getting comments like listening from Japan, listening from Serbia, whatever, and we think it's just one of our buddies messing with us because there's no way that. Although it is
Yeah.
entertaining to think about somebody in Serbia or Japan learning English from the Triangle Tennis Podcast, which maybe crazier things have happened.
Yeah, you're just part of like their English course at school.
Yeah.
Little
Yeah.
team. How would I describe my game? Slightly impatient and offensive, I think, is what I would describe it. I'm working on the patient side of it, but I hit like a flatter, somewhat spinny ball, but it's usually I'm trying to get to offense as quickly as possible because I just can't hang with grinders like Matt or Anil Chella is
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Dan Gallo like
Oh yeah.
consistently beats up on me because I don't think I could. I just can't last that long, and I know I don't want to, and so I try to play to my strengths and avoid my weaknesses. So that's the style that I'm angling for. Prefer singles just because there's just so much more open court. Get to be a little bit more creative. The points are longer, but it's also fun to just play with three other guys for doubles. So totally open to that too.
Matt, do you concur with Visakan's assessment of his game?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think if he's beating folks like you, he's getting more patient. Because I know the first time we played, yeah, I think you were a little impatient, but that is
Right.
not the same anymore. We do need a rematch at some point. That'll be
Oh.
fun. Yeah, we haven't
Yeah.
played in 2 years. I think we played once like 2 years ago.
Oh wow,
Yeah, it's
TTP
singles, yeah.
exclusive. We're gonna
Yeah,
get it
it
set
was
up.
a long time ago. Yeah, we need to play again.
Yeah.
But that was I think because you're a fit dude, so a little bit more patience, as you've seen recently, goes a long way.
Dude, I was in a dark place after our singles match. I was
Yeah.
like, I hate rec tennis.
Yeah, a lot of people do that after they play me. They
Uh,
question their life.
yeah, but it was eye-opening. It was good. I needed it.
Matt and I think we split sets the other day. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and I don't. We didn't even play the tiebreaker, and I just
Go
went
to work.
home. I didn't even go inside. I just sat on my porch, just trying to breathe. Because I was so tired after playing you. And so, Matt, I've joked before that Visakan and I think are somewhat stylistic cousins on the tennis court because I think we're trying to play those short points,
Yep.
serve +1 tennis when we can. And so, yeah, when we played the other day, Visakan, I could see the leap in your game because you beat me pretty good, and I just didn't have the answer. It felt like you could end the point when the ball was on your racket more than it was on mine, and that really took me out of rhythm because you've got weapons from all over the court. It was cool. It would have been cooler if I won, but it was cool. It was cool to see the
I mean,
progress.
it was a fun match, but that's you saw even in the second set, like you came back 7-6 or something, 7-5, and like you changed your whole strategy, which was just to pop the ball up a little bit slower, and you took a lot of the pace out of the ball,
Yeah.
and that puts a lot of pressure on me to just create the offense, and you won a lot of really smart points that way, and I think that's clearly something I'm still working on.
You referenced something that I do. I have a plan A, which is hit ball hard, win point fast. Pretty simple strategy. My plan B is a lot more slice, drop shot, lob kind of stuff. Make somebody win ugly. I don't
Yeah.
really have a plan C though. Do you have a plan B for when what your kind of go-to strategy isn't working?
Really, yeah, recently after the Hollow Rock tournament, I feel like a light bulb went off for me where
Mm.
because I was playing pretty well and I got to Brett Eccles in one of the rounds and he just smacked the hell out of me. And he really didn't hit me off the court, but the score was like 2-0 or 1-1 or something crazy. And we've had close matches before, not that bad. And so I was like, what just happened? And I was just like, he was just so steady and calm. Like he would just hit it deep, decent shape, push you around. But I don't think he hit that many winners. And I feel like Loic's been trying to tell me this for years. But then, like, I played Ryan Seiko right after that in the consolation draw. And I was like, what would happen if I just played like Brett? What if I just did that? Forget how I play. Let's just play like Brett would play. And the game just came so much easier. Ryan was like 5 matches deep, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
that hurts. But I think like the pressure, you could see the pressure like on his face. And then played other guys after that, you could see the same thing. Ryan like still made it a really close match, but I felt like all the pressure was gone. And I was like, this is what Brett lives like. This is nice. This is how like smart players play. Like you rally and be patient, and then when you have the offense, you start to transition. It's easier said than done. I don't do it every match. I clearly lose, so it's not that easy. But I'm just like guys like that are just like that's how you take the leap, I think, in
Mm.
4-0, 4-5, where like the pressure's really not on you to win the point. It's on them to not miss.
Matt, I think your game is actually a little bit like that, like Visakan's
Oh
describing.
yeah,
Well,
100%.
I'm not as good at the offensive transition, and I'm also just fatter after my injury. So now I have to play more like you guys because it's tough for me to do 12 balls in a row now. So I need to add. So like I hit drop shots now, which I never did. I serve and volley
Mm.
once in a while, so I have to learn to play fat because that's just who I am, and
I think that's
that's
actually
fine.
helping though. Like you have good touch, and I see
Yeah.
you use that touch a lot more now that perhaps you're a half step slower than you were before the accident. But like the touch, it adds another dynamic to it.
Yeah, no, it's I'm old and out of shape, and that's who it is, and you gotta adjust your game. And oh yeah, no, it's then that transition to offense is hard. It's easy to get 10, 15 balls back somewhat deep, but then actually attacking is a different story, and that really separates folks.
Yeah.
So, Visaki, you talked about going to Loic for a couple of years, the RRC, lessons with Max. What is your general tennis improvement plan? What's the stuff that you focus on? You started out good and you've gotten really good in a hurry. How do you do it? Yeah, give us the breakdown.
When I moved here, we'll go back to then, I was probably like a 3-5 that would like could play like a high 3-5, but then other days would just be so inconsistent and just lose to lower 3-5s. So I think 3-5 was probably the right range for me. And at that point, it was just consistency was the only thing I wanted to work on. And so like playing with Max on his teams, and then I ran into Jermaine, and he obviously will put you on every team he has. Played a lot of matches. I think it was like 90 or 100 that season.
Wow.
And like that helped a ton. And so once consistency got better, I could compete a little bit more at 4-0. Then I feel like the biggest mindset shift was actually thinking about the ball, like higher quality balls that you're giving your opponent. Because I think 4-0 is where the grinder starts to appear. And if you aren't thoughtful about what you're doing, you're going to miss first, guaranteed. Unless you play me, I'll probably miss first. And so, like in most cases, the onus is on you to direct the point. Otherwise, it'll go on for 5 hours. And then once I started hitting with guys that were like higher 4-0s or 4-5s, it was a lot more about like patterns. And so I've been working with Loic a lot on like serve plus one and really thinking about the first 4 or 5 balls because that's really
Yeah.
where most of the points
Yeah.
start and finish. Like not many guys serve and volley, but it's serve, get ready for a decent return, plus one to the other corner, come to the net, or go behind them and just start the point. But it's really going in with the plan and then improving that. But there's outside of that strategy stuff, like I have so much technique we work on, crap that I've just picked up over the years, teaching myself poorly, like getting low, which is just like a super
Oh
obvious
yeah.
one. But it's tiring, so nobody wants to do
Yeah.
it. But like you get so much better when you do. My volley form is just funky in singles because you have so much more time to think about it. So I'm like, my hand is all sorts of weird crap. And one thing recently was actually swinging slower on my serve, and you could place it, still have good pace, but the percentage goes way up because I was just swinging way too big. And so I think it's just like technique and being thoughtful about how I'm actually hitting a quality ball. So that's been probably the biggest focus recently.
Those are good tips. And I think for those folks listening at home, the answer is not just play a bunch of matches if you want to get better. It helps. It helps. You need that match practice. But yeah, the technique stuff, the lessons you're doing, it really makes a difference. Matt, any questions to ask before we get to break out the closer?
Let me see. I think we're good. I wanted to talk about your baked goods, so that was important.
Let's plug it again. It's really what's the
Yeah.
Instagram handle? If anybody's still
Oh
listening
yeah,
now, they're
do a
definitely gonna
plug.
follow.
Yeah.
What's the handle?
The handle's visa.desserts, visa.desserts, if anybody wants to follow along.
Okay. I'll have to log into my Instagram account. It's probably been deactivated, or they think I'm a bot or something because I'm never on there. But I will do that to look at the yummy desserts.
Yeah, I try to post stuff every time I'm tinkering or
Right.
feeding people, so most stuff will end up on there at some point.
Hell yeah, Matt, take us home.
Again, what does tennis mean to you?
I saved the most like meta question for last.
Always, yeah.
I think for me, tennis has been a way to have an identity outside of work. Coming from like tech in Chicago and Seattle, like people say, "Hey, I'm so and I'm a blank at blank, my job at company." And like that whole like bubble mindset, like tech bubble or any bubble, just like really drove me insane at some point. And then I moved here and people never leave with their job. They're like, "Hey, I'm so and so. I live at East End," or "I'm so and so. I live 5 minutes from this club." And like, you got people barbecuing and grilling at tennis matches. You got people doing fundraisers. I got people playing more tennis than working. And so it's just such a like breath of fresh air. I'm just like relief here, where people just live their life and they're just super happy about it. And so I think for me, like that was the biggest just mental health shift for me was moving here and the vitamin D helps, but I think in general, people in like especially the East End group and like a lot of the tennis circles are just like not toxic, whatever the opposite of that is. Whereas like they're just living their life and being happy and trying to get better at tennis and trying to be better friends and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a fun community. So I think for me, it's just a great way to just be a bigger person than you were yesterday.
That is absolutely a Mount Rushmore. What does tennis mean to you
Yeah.
entry? This has
Yep.
been a great episode. Gentlemen, thanks so much. Matt, as always, for hosting. Visakan, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us. And with that, have a great day, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, boys. Good to see you.
Woo.